I'm here to update New Yorkers on an urgent matter that could impact our state in coming days. I came down here to the Port Authority offices, and I'm joined by Rick Cotton, who is the Executive Director of the Port Authority, CEO of Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Jackie Bray, our Commissioner of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, as well as Beth Rooney, the Port Director of the Port Authority, who has been working around the clock to try and deal with the impending crisis. You may have heard the news that contract negotiations are going on between the International Longshoremen's Association. That is the union that represents port workers all across the country, and USMX. Now, that deadline is rapidly approaching. If an agreement is not reached by later today, ports from Maine to Texas will face a strike. 47,000 workers, 4,500 of which are right here in the New York and New Jersey area. And we represent the largest port on the East Coast, the second largest in the nation, so the busiest in the nation. So I want to be clear. I urge USMX and the ILA to come to an agreement that respects workers, that ensures the flow of commerce through our ports, and the stakes are very high. The potential for disruption is significant. We've not had an event occur like this in our ports since 1977, and that lasted 12 days. We're deeply concerned about the impact that a strike could have on our supply chains, especially when it comes to critical goods like medical supplies and others. That's why I've been working tirelessly, particularly for weeks, but in earnest over the last week, to deal with every aspect of this. And you'll be hearing about the extraordinary measures, the long hours, the days, the weekends that have gone into really trying to make sure that we're prepared for this and addressing all the vessels that are in our port now, removing the cargo containers. And there'll be 100,000 cargo containers that'll be sitting in one of our 16 locations, filled with everything from automobiles to consumer goods. We have been preparing for that and rapidly trying to take them off the ships now, get them on trucks, and get them to their destinations at a hyper speed, because we know the urgency is before us. So I want to make sure that while we hope for a resolution of this matter, that New York is fully prepared. We have been anticipating this. We're fully prepared to support our communities and maintain essential services if a strike does occur. I'm going to outline some of the steps that we're taking to prepare for this. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, as I said, has been working round the clock to get critical cargo out of our facilities, food products, medical supplies, other essential goods. We're also working closely with the commercial trucking industry to ensure that these items reach their destination. This will be a major disruption for thousands and thousands of independent truckers as well. We're really focused on medical supplies and making sure that all facilities have what they need to continue caring for their patients. Number one, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, I'm pleased to report that the majority of pharmaceuticals arrive to their destination by air travel, so that pharmaceuticals are not expected to be in a problematic situation. But I've directed our Department of Health to remind our healthcare workers that they're required to maintain 60-day stockpiles of personal protective equipment. We saw the need for this during the pandemic, as well as other supplies. We're closely monitoring this situation and ready to deploy state resources if and when necessary. Again, Department of Homeland Security, coordinating with all of our state agencies to prepare for any shortages of essential goods and materials. Our state stockpiles, including emergency generators, are ready to be mobilized at a moment's notice. While we're preparing for the worst, and that's what we're supposed to do in government, prepare for the worst, there's also some reassuring news. We don't anticipate shortages of essential goods anytime soon. So, for example, people do not need to rush out to the grocery store and stockpile goods like they did during the pandemic. I want to be very clear about that. We do not want to see people reach that level of anxiety, because we are not there. Also, fuels like home heating oil, gasoline, diesel, we don't expect them to be affected in New York City because they're brought in by other vessels. And this is critical as we particularly approach the colder months. Municipal solid waste operations will also be unaffected in the event of a strike, meaning your garbage will continue to be carted out and disposed of. What about the rest of the state? Our upstate ports, including Albany, Coeymans, Oswego, and Buffalo, will not be impacted by a strike. They're represented by different unions. And our cruise ship industry, which hosts 25,000 passengers a week, will also be unaffected. Now, everything we're talking about here today are precautionary. I just spoke again to the governor of New Jersey, talking about their preparations. There has been intense coordination between the New York government and the state and the New Jersey government, but also what's been happening in this building. The intensive coordination is quite extraordinary. We are hopeful that they will reach an amicable resolution to the negotiations and avert a strike. However, it's our responsibility to be prepared for any scenario, and we take that very seriously. I'll say this to the longshoremen and port workers. We recognize your vital role in keeping our state moving. Your work is absolutely essential, and we support your right to fair treatment and working conditions. And to my fellow New Yorkers, rest assured that we're doing everything in our power to minimize potential disruption to your daily lives. Throughout our history, in moments like these, New Yorkers have always shown their resilience and camaraderie, looking out for each other. And I'm confident that working together we'll be able to weather any challenges we face. I have been drilling down into the exact operations of what happens at 5 o'clock today, and again, assuring everyone that the cargo that has not been transported off-site by trucks will be in secure places. We've also been ramping up our security, and there will be disruptions. Automobiles, if you're expecting to be able to get a new car this week, it may be something you want to check with your dealer. It may not be arriving, for example, in the next few weeks. That is one area we expect major disruptions. Not exactly a consumer item, but something like semiconductor chips. We saw what happened during the pandemic when literally the automotive industry shut down in our country because we weren't able to get those essential chips that are basically the brains of any vehicle. So there's a lot of areas where people may not have anticipated a disruption, but we have. We're working closely with the industry. I will also say that the industries, the manufacturers, the suppliers, have been anticipating this strike for a while, so they have been moving at a higher speed to get product to ports and into their destinations earlier than anticipated as well. So there's been a lot of preparation for this. But here we are, almost at the 11th hour, and I just wanted New Yorkers to know that we are very focused on this. We want to minimize disruptions to their lives. Do not have the level of anxiety that drives you out to get your groceries unnecessarily soon. We don't think there'll be a disruption to the food supply. But over time, if this goes on as long as the strike did in 1977, products that must come in on ships, like bananas, will be affected. But we still have plentiful food coming in from Canada, our own state, California, and Mexico. Those are the primary sources of food for the state of New York. So I just want everybody to not have that the concerns about the food supply as well. At this point, I want to introduce Rick Cotton, the Port Authority's Executive Director, who will provide more details, and then we'll hear from Commissioner Bray as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. We are expecting the ILA, its 47,000 members, to go on strike at ports from Maine to Texas at midnight tonight. While we have encouraged both sides to reach an amicable agreement at the bargaining table, all signs are that there will be a strike. And the port has been preparing in cooperation with both states, New York and New Jersey, for the past period of time, but with great intensity over the last 10 days. We are confident that we are in a position, working with our marine terminal operators and all our other partners at the port, that we will be able to successfully shut down operations at the port on a phased basis by midnight tonight. The gates of the marine terminals will close at 5 p.m. this afternoon. The port has been working under the direction of Port Director Beth Ann Rooney, particularly for the past week to 10 days, to urgently unload ships and move cargo out so that when closure comes, all safety preparations will have been made. We do anticipate that a significant number of containers will remain stored at the port, close to 100,000, but they will be stored safely at the port for whatever duration of the strike. There are inbound ships to the port. We anticipate 35 coming in or arriving at the port over the next week, and they will go to anchorage under the supervision of the Coast Guard for whatever the duration of the strike. With that, I'd like to bring Commissioner Jackie Bray, the New York Commissioner of Homeland Security and Emergency Operations, to the podium.
Thank you so much. I will be really quick. I just want to reassure New Yorkers and reiterate that we are not only coordinating with our, New Jersey partners, our New York City partners, and our county partners, but we're also coordinating with industry, including individual facilities that might experience delays. And at this point, we don't expect over the next couple weeks to see significant disruption for New Yorkers, but we are preparing in the event that this would be a longer duration event. We are also prepared in New York to open up our warehouses. As we are all really familiar with, we have stockpiled particularly medical consumables, and so we'll be opening up those warehouses if this strike were to continue to make sure that there's no disruption whatsoever for our hospitals and our nursing homes and our other critical care facilities. Before I turn this back over to the governor to take questions, I do just also want to turn our attention southeast of here. Obviously, there's an ongoing crisis in the southeast. Through Governor Hochul's leadership, the state has been able to deploy. We're up to 5 deployments down in the southeast, and we'll be adding another 3 in the next couple days. So I want to thank our partners in New York City who sent a urban search and rescue team. New York City sent a second swift water team. New York State has sent a swift water team, sent generators, very large generators that take full flatbeds to move. We've sent a team of helicopters to North Carolina to help with getting in and out of difficult places, and we're about to send another second management team, another 30 personnel from the National Guard, and a team to do fatality recovery. And so we're obviously thinking about all our first responders in the Southeast as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And on that note, I've been in communication with Governor Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina, which is absolutely under siege. He expressed his gratitude to the people of New York and our emergency services teams and those who have been deployed into a very, very difficult and challenging situation. So we're grateful to be able to participate and help our brothers and sisters in other states as they deal with the aftermath of this horrific, deadly hurricane. Again, the purpose of today's event is to let people know that we fully anticipate there'll be a strike before midnight tonight here in the state of New York, pending some resolution of the negotiations. But it's all about being prepared. And I want to reassure everybody we have been taking countless precautionary steps to speed up the process of unloading these ships and deal with the cargo containers in advance of this. So we're in much better shape than we had been if we had not done this. But also the emergency supplies that people are concerned about. Again, prescription drugs fly in. They come in on planes, so we're not concerned about that. But there are medical supplies that we're concerned about and making sure that all of our hospital and medical facilities have properly stockpiled. Again, the food supply is secure right now, and we'll certainly be communicating with the public as this unfolds if it takes any length of time. Happy to take any questions on the topic.
We're going to start with on topics while we have everyone here. I'll come back for other stuff after. Go ahead, CBS.
Hi, it's Chris Hankley from CBS News. Governor, I'm curious, and I think people watching this are going to wonder, why wasn't this preventable? Should more have been done by the federal government to try to stop this from happening, to facilitate a more productive negotiation process? Was this avoidable?
My job as the governor of the state of New York is to deal with the hands we're dealt. This is something that a state does not negotiate with. This is a strike that is nationwide, from Maine to Texas. And so our responsibility is to show New Yorkers that we anticipated this, just like a storm. You prepare for it, you hope it doesn't hit, but when it does, you at least say, we were ready. And that's what I want to let New Yorkers know right now, that we are ready for this. We're going to continue the line of communication. So if we are concerned about any particular consumer goods, if this goes on any significant length of time, we'll be engaging with them. But also, again, the reassurance of knowing, as I just met the Canadian Prime Minister and talked about our trade relationship, there's a lot of food that crosses the border from Canada into New York. Many thousands of trucks come in from California and Mexico. So we're not totally reliant for our food chain on the port to be fully functioning. And I just want to let people know that as well.
Okay, other on-topic questions over here?
John Beers with the John Swansea Press. Can you just describe, have you been in touch with the ILA and the USMX? What kind of conversations you've had with them and what you understand to be the state of the negotiations? I mean, our impression is that they're very, very far apart. They're not even really talking very seriously.
I'm familiar with the news reports on that as well, not engaging directly in those negotiations as this is happening at a national level, and following closely the White House's engagement in this and hoping for a resolution.
Over there?
Ryder
Right, go.
Barr from Politico. Have you talked to the president, and if so, have you talked about him invoking Taft-Hartley?
He has already said that he's not planning to invoke Taft-Hartley. The president announced that.
Hi, Governor. Tim McNicholas with CBS 2. Two questions for you. One, should the president invoke Taft-Hartley? Do you think he should do that? And two, should people be worried about prices at grocery stores or other stores for that matter?
It's certainly something we'll keep an eye on, is if there's any price gouging associated with the crisis, no matter what the crisis is, whether it's weather-related, whether it's a pandemic. And so certainly our offices of consumer affairs and others who monitor this will be watching for that. I'm warning everybody right now, do not, based on the current supply, do anything to affect the prices. There should be no extraordinary increases in the aftermath of this strike as well. So we're prepared for that. What was the first part of the question?
Should the president invoke Taft-Hartley?
I'm focused on making sure New Yorkers are prepared for this. They know the steps we're taking, that we get through this. I'm not going to second guess the president on this.
Larry Hicks from NJ.com and the Star Ledger. Open question, how long can the region last before consumers start to see ripple effects of this, either on the shelves, in hospitals, or with their medical providers?
I can ask also Commissioner Bray to address this as well, but these have been my questions. I want to know this, and so I'm peeling back, and I don't want to say peeling back because one of the issues that we're concerned about are bananas. They do come in. I do not want to be in a position to say, yes, we have no bananas, but we could get to that point, something like that. But we may have more apples. There's plenty of other fruits to substitute for fruits like that. And so I'm going to promote New York State apples in particular. They're very juicy and wonderful. And there could be by individual commodities that are affected, but the wholesale food supply is resilient here in New York. We're not concerned at all about any shortages of foods overall, maybe individual products. And I think that answers the question. What, Commissioner?
Yeah, I mean, weeks, not days, weeks. And most of what we would consider as consumers, the things we want to go out and buy, are here. They're in warehouses. They've been here for a long time. So that, you will not see effects for weeks, assuming that this plays out. And the governor's right. There might be a product here or there, but it's weeks before regular consumers feel it. There might be a handful of industries, a specific industrial plant in New York that we'll have to work one-on-one with to ensure that they have the raw materials they need.
Governor, are you concerned, off that question, if this continues to last, or if it does last longer than you think, could it negatively impact Democrats, especially in these congressional districts that you really want Democrats to take back?
It's no secret that I want Democrats to win in those congressional races. The election is in a matter of weeks. I don't anticipate that people will have a sense that this is disrupting their lives before that time. If it's still going on after that, we'll be taking other extraordinary measures to ensure people have what they need to fully function. So we know how to manage. I've managed many crises in the 3 years I've been governor, so I have an incredible team that'll make sure that this does not bleed over into people's lives, and therefore I do not believe it'll have a political impact either.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Governor will be back in a minute.